Doc, do you think that we are politicizing this issue? I'm asking this because on Monday, we all witnessed the judiciary demonstration by the opposition party. Of course, they have labeled this whole issue as an action which is politically calculated. And again, we know that the ruling party has also defended the suspension, stating it reflects a commitment to accountability. Do you think that we are actually politicizing this issue in the first place?
All right. Talking about whether we are politicizing the issue, the fact is that, I mean, we can't run away from the influence of politics and this. Because not that we are, I mean, we are, all parties are politicizing, but we look at what has happened over the years, right? In fact, it's not the first time that we are experiencing this. Even in during Kwame Nkrumah's time, we had that experience. Somewhere in 1977, Azukrab also faced a similar thing, and I think later on, Akbalu also experienced that in 1980, right? But the current situation, right? The question is that it's because of how we have handled the appointments, right? And then also how some of the other constitutional, maybe the heads of some constitutional bodies like Charlotte Osei, for example, right? Her removal, I think, has, I mean, definitely some implications in this. The question is, assuming that if Charlotte Osei had not been removed, right, some years back, the question is, I mean, what would have been, would something have changed? In my view, something would have changed, right? But because of that removal, I think that so it sets, I mean, some stage for other governments or parties to follow suit, right? So if you look at the current situation, right? So throughout when Charlotte Osei was removed, and also looking at the appointment that Mavis talked about earlier, there's that perception that judges are appointed, right, or promoted based on whether they are loyal to the executive at the end of the day, right? So if you look at, for example, the suspended Chief Justice, this is someone who was called to the Supreme Court somewhere in 2019, but before her, there were others. We are not saying that, I mean, it was wrong to do that, right? But the fact is that sometimes, I mean, executives, because of some of these problems, you need to be careful about certain decisions that you take. Now, when she came in, if you look at, I mean, the fact that about 18 judges of the Supreme Court were appointed by Nana Akufo-Addo, right? And these are people who sit on constitutional or human rights, I mean, related cases. And these are cases that people have, I mean, interest in. They often sometimes divide the society, right? So if you look at their consistent rulings, which maybe for them, maybe they may be doing the right thing. For them, in their view, that is what the law is saying they should do. But if you have someone appointing such a number of people sitting on cases involving maybe the state and against the opposition, and consistently you have such rulings going in favor of the executive, certainly people will raise issues. And mind you, the truth of the matter is that in some of these, I mean, they say judges, sometimes people talk about the fact that, I mean, judges, it's about the law, they interpret the law. That is not entirely true. Yes, judges are bound by legal text, the constitution, statutes, precedents, and then procedural rules and all that. So their primary duty is to interpret and then apply these laws fairly and consistently, as I have said previously. But the point is that for those of us who have maybe, if you have read judicial politics, and I think there is parallel of this in legal realism, the fact is that judicial decisions are influenced by several factors, including non-legal factors. So politics is a key thing, right? So if you look at some of these decisions, like my colleague talked about the birth certificate, for example, right? Look at the Speaker of Parliament, right? I think somewhere October thereabout, 2020, 2024, in the lead up to the 2024 election, the issue the speaker had with the majority then that went to the Supreme Court, and how within a certain period the Supreme Court was able to sit and then to take decisions, and several of such decisions. So all these things feed into that perception, right? And for us in political science, every political scientist will tell you that perception is very important in our study, right? Until not until when Arimiyahu announced went into or went undercover, even though there was that perception that judges were corrupt and all that, until we had something like this. So perception is very important. Sometimes it is just close as the reality, right? So some of these feed into the problems that we are having, right? So when it happens this way, certainly you have a new party or a new government that has been formed. They have so many other issues, and while they were in opposition, they have witnessed a number of things. In their view, they felt that things could have done better than this, or maybe the Supreme Court was wrong and all that. In some of the cases, sometimes even ordinary people could tell you, no, after this ruling, we don't believe in it and that kind of thing. So all these things have added up to the problems that we are having, right? So it is important that one, so much as we are saying that removing it is dangerous to remove judges, and that's why I've indicated that where there are palpable violations, right, and you are removing a judge or a judge of the superior court based on certain egregious violations, I think that it adds to the democratic governance. So we should not just look at it as if that maybe when a judge is being removed, it means that the judiciary is under attack, right? When judges are being removed based on certain facts, based on the fact that there are egregious violations, and I think that in those circumstances, it means that it will rather add to our governance. But where there are no, the facts cannot support the charges or the allegations that are being made, and the judge is removed, then it becomes a danger to our, or it has the negative implications for our democratic governance. So basically, in my view, I think that from these two perspectives, we just have to look at it that, one, it is important that once we talk about judicial independence, then accountability is very, very important. We cannot just allow judges that maybe they to take their decisions and then that is it. There should be some kind of accountability. But because of the inherent, executive overreach, right, in some of these situations, that is why we need to, ensure that there are some protections, right, that will make it difficult. Sometimes we could even have maybe independent bodies that will be responsible for complaints and then disciplinary actions against judges rather than the executive. Because for the executive, given the opportunity, they will always want to cash on it to their benefit, whether it is the NDC or it is the MPP. So because such dangers exist, then it is important that we strengthen our systems to ensure that executive will not at all the time have some influence on the judges, so that we can have the fair, firm, and consistent judicial decision that we expect from our courts.